Hey everybody, Zee Garcia here, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the latest expansion to a beautiful mountain climbing game, K2. This is K2 Lhotse. In Lhotse, much like in the first expansion to the game Broad Peak, this being the second boxed expansion, you are going to get a double-sided board with one side featuring the main new concept in the expansion, and then the other side just being an extra mountain for you to climb, not shaking up the rules very much and giving you a slightly truncated game length where you play over fewer days of a climbing expedition. So in this one, as I said, you're going to get a few new tokens, that double-sided board, and a couple of small new rules. In this video, I'm not going to be really showing you how to play K2. I'm just going to be going over what the expansion brings to the table. If you have not played K2, definitely look up our video for that review so that you are familiar with what I'm talking about here. It's a wonderful game, so I do recommend you watch that video and possibly pick it up if you haven't played it. But if you are ready to see what Lhotse here is all about, let's go ahead and dive into it, and I'm going to see you on the other side with some final thoughts. The board that comes with the expansion is double-sided. I'm going to be showing you this side, which is the one that features the most changes, and I'll give you a quick look at the other side later on in the video. So this is called the South Face, and this board is going to be divided into three areas on the board. You've got the western side, central, and then eastern side over here with, of course, all the usual things you'll find in the K2 board, the different heights. You have your two starting cams in this one, and then over here on the side, the track to keep track of how high your climbers have been able to reach. Everybody gets whatever they get in the original game, so you've got your markers and so forth, your two tents. There are two new tokens you are going to get that are going to allow you to affix a new rope that only works for you onto this board. So that's going to be a new action. And you're also not using the weather tiles from the original game. You'll put those aside. Instead, you'll be using these new weather tiles. So to finish setting up the game, we're going to shuffle these up. Everybody gets two of them. And from those two, they will choose one that they want to exclude from the game. So this player might get this one out of there. And then everybody's doing the same thing. Pick one, remove the other. In this case, I have a game with 3 players. So they've selected 3 tiles that are in and 3 that are out. And then we will add tiles to this to bring the total up to 6. So we are going to add 3 more tiles. We're going to shuffle that up. And then that's ready to begin. We're going to reveal 2 of them, as we usually do. Put them down there. Make sure that they're right side up as well for you. And then we'll put the token, of course, on the first day. You've got everything else that you normally have in the game. Tents, you've got, of course, the boards to keep track of acclimatization, things like that. And everybody has their own deck of cards. So the gameplay is going to flow the same general way with 2 main changes to it, okay? The first one is that you can now affix that rope when it's from one trail, if you would, to another one, following a few different rules. So let me go ahead and put this one right here and explain how that works. So when it's my turn, I may affix these 2 from that location to a location on a different path, meaning the ropes connecting those are a different color, and following a couple of rules. The difference in victory points between the 2 spaces cannot be more than 1. So I'm going from a 4 victory point space to a 5 victory point space over here. I cannot cross the pre-printed ropes on the board with my imaginary rope between them. I have one space that's clearly higher than the other one, and the arrows on these tokens will help me visualize that, and a couple of other things. But mainly what this allows me to do is to go from this location to this location and skip from one peak to another one. Why would you want to do that? Well, it lets you get around a jam along the way, because as you can see over here, there is a limit of how many climbers can be on each unique spot. But also, because of the way the weather works now, it might let you avoid something coming. And here's what I mean by that. These tiles are going to feature weather, they're going to feature height that are affected above 6,000 meters there. Sometimes they only work at the very peak, sometimes the whole mountain, etc. But also across the bottom, this is going to feature which part of the mountain is affected. And you'll see on there that some of them say just the western part, maybe the central part, or a combination of, eastern and central, things like that. And that's going to let you know what's going on that, what the weather is going to affect on that part. So you might want to affix your rope and move from one section to another in order to avoid some inclement weather coming your way. Once you do affix the rope, it will stay there. You'll be the one to use it, of course, but it'll stay there. You cannot remove it and put it somewhere else. And ideally, you're going to be using it at just the right time to get around something nasty. There's one other thing that you'll find that's new on the weather tiles, and that is rock slides. You see one right here. On this one in the center, there's a rock slide there. And anyone affected by that rock slide is going to be pushed back down the mountain. So for example, this one says it works above 6,000 meters and it affects the eastern part of the board. So let's say our climber, let's leave him there. Let's put this climber here. And let's say they even built a tent. They went ahead and built a tent there to acclimatize. And then that rock slide happens. This character is going to be pushed back, if they have a tent, with the tent, back down the mountain. This is going to happen to the players after they have acclimated. So let's say this player is up here and their other is there. They get hit by that landslide, they get pushed down, and they are going to lose an additional 2 acclimatization points. So boom, boom. After they've resolved anything else, they get pushed down and they lose a couple of hits on that track. So you definitely want to watch out for those. You want to avoid them. Not only are they moving you farther down, but they are really making a dent in your character's survivability. So there you go. That's how that works. Everything else is the same. The players are going to have 6 cards in their hand. Every round they are going to play 3 of those cards. Whoever played the highest total has to deal with one of these tokens. They are going to attempt to be moving up, try to get to the highest points, and get the most victory points that they can. This being the main highest point of Lhotse Mountain there. And they can make it over here for 10 victory points or all the way over here for 10 as well. But the very peak is 12 victory points. So again, generally speaking, very similar to the original game with a couple of new things to contend with. And that interesting idea of jumping from one path to another by affixing your rope. Now the other side of the board is a lot more straightforward than that. And this side of the board is going to feature sort of a truncated climb, if you would. It still features the same mountain, but it features a much simpler path up that mountain. And on this side, you will use, likely, the normal weather tiles, and you are going to only play 5 of these tiles instead of 6. So if you're looking for a shorter burst of fun playing K2, then this is a good mountain for that, because it'll be shorter by 3 days, i.e. 3 rounds, and it's a much more simplified layout for the game. Same idea, you've got your track over here, everything else is the same, but this definitely feels like just another board for K2, whereas the other side is a new concept using most of the mechanisms from the original game. So there you go. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what this is going to be like as an expansion for the original game. Let's go back up top. Let me tell you what I think of it. Alright, so there you go. That's the expansion. Let's go ahead and dive into this. As I said in the intro, K2 is a wonderful game. I really do enjoy it. I've got Broad Peak, as you saw. I like that expansion. This is a second expansion already. I like that there is more content for the game. It's also, though, on the flip side of that, a little samey now that it's a second box expansion to a core game. And I'll be honest, I was hoping for a little bit of a bigger shakeup to the formula that this game has put in place. And then the expansion broke a little bit. But I do enjoy it, and I'm glad it exists, and I'm glad I have it. So let's break it down a little bit. The thematic ties here. You get a new mountain to climb. You get new weather tiles, which is really neat. You did not have new weather tiles in Broad Peak, but there were a bunch of other tiles in that box. And so I like that the game stays fresh, stays thematic, gives you new interesting places to visit in this microcosm of mountain, extreme mountain climbing. So I really enjoy that. The aesthetics fit in well with the original game. Everything looks good. There are no new cards, so shuffling in cards that are different sizes and so forth are not a problem. As you saw, I have my card sleeved anyway, so I guess it wouldn't really matter. But all the tokens, all the bits look very good. Board is nice, well made, no problem there. The replayability gets a small ding from me, so this one isn't getting a positive, and that's because it's a second expansion. Still get two sides, that's good. It follows the formula that Broad Peak put into play. One side being the main thing, Broad Peak. The other side is an easier climb, sort of a more straightforward adventure, if you would. This one follows that rule. I do like that at the beginning of the game, you get that small peek ahead as to what's coming up. So you can see one of the weather tiles you'll be dealing with. And that'll inform some of the choices you're making, so that's nice. Replayability here isn't bad. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just not saying it's great. The game length, it's still good. I never found the game to be long anyway, but now you have another one of those boards that makes it a little bit shorter. If you had Broad Peak, you had one of those anyway. If not, then that's good, because if you want to play a slightly shorter burst of K2, then that alternate board is going to be a good choice for that. Very, very clean design, very simple board. It would be a good board to teach on even, I think. The ease of play stays high. The new concept of the three sides of the mountain is neat. It's going to take a little getting used to. You have to make sure you are scanning those weather tiles correctly. And then the rope is slightly finicky. There are like a page and a half of how you may attach the two rope ends and how you may not. You can do this, but you can't do that. You can cross this, but you can't cross that. But it becomes, most of those rules are sort of thematically obvious. You're like, well, of course I can't put a rope from here to here. Those places couldn't possibly be attached by a rope, right? So it's fine. You get it quickly, and it becomes second nature as to where you can do it. Lastly, tactics and strategy. I also like. The game is just fun. This is an expansion to a game that was all about knowing when to push, when to back down, and now when to jump ship from one section of the mountain to another one. Before, it was much more about, I'm too high, whoa, back down and avoid that storm. Okay, it's passed, let's push again. Now there's that extra little bit of, I don't care that I'm this high, but if I can put that rope in place and jump to the other side of a mountain, then I'll avoid that and I can keep climbing. If I get into trouble later, I can back down and jump back over, things like that. And I do enjoy those decisions. So I do like it. It's a good expansion. Like I said, it is a second expansion, and it feels like it's following the plan, if you would. But that's not bad, and like I said, I'm very happy that the game has content and is supported. And it's a game I do think is somewhat underappreciated for being such an elegant and engaging push your luck sort of climbing game. So my bottom line for Lhotse here, more content for a great game is never bad, but if there is to be a third expansion, I'd make sure it really shakes up the formula. This is going to get a 7 out of 10 from me, which means it gets a seal of approval. Get K2, folks. Get this expansion once you've played that base game a whole bunch. Get Broad Peak if you can find that. Both of them are great expansions, and I recommend the whole thing. So that's it for me. Again, seal of approval for this one. I'm Zee Garcia, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.